Good evening, humans. Tonight I have a scary ghost story from Australia based on true events. Here is the story. There are houses that seem to breathe. Old homes where the air feels heavier, as if every brick remembers what happened within it. Monte Cristo Homestead is one of those places. A mansion built on pride and stained with the rot of grief. To the townspeople of June, it stands above the land like a white tomb, its iron balconies staring down on the living. They call it the Mount of Christ, but there is nothing divine about what lingers there. When Christopher Crawley first arrived in the 1880s, he was a man with ambition in his blood and iron in his eyes. He made his fortune off the railway that carved through the plains. Where there was dust, he brought wealth. Where there was silence, he built noise and order. And above it all, he built Monte Cristo, a mansion that would outlive him, a statement carved into the bones of the earth. He filled it with marble floors, grand staircases, and crosses above every door. To outsiders it looked like prosperity, but to those who worked there it felt like a prison made beautiful. Servants whispered about Mrs. Elizabeth Crawley, his wife, a woman of cold devotion and darker faith. She believed her husband's success came from divine will. When he ordered workers to labor through sickness, she said it was God's test. When one of them died under the sun, she ordered his body buried without ceremony. She never dirtied her hands. She only prayed, endlessly, obsessively. Then came the night that cracked the house in two. Christopher Crawley returned home, feverish and trembling, his stomach twisted, his breath short. Some said he'd eaten bad pork. Others whispered he had been poisoned. A curse for the cruelty he had sown. Within hours he was gone. Mrs. Crawley dressed in black that very day, and she never wore another color again. For the next 23 years she never left the house. She boarded the windows shut, burned incense, and read scripture until her voice was hoarse. Servants said she muttered the same words every night. As long as I pray, no evil shall enter, but evil was already there. The house began to turn on those who remained. The caretaker, a simple man who tended to animals, was found trampled to death one morning, crushed by the hooves of a horse locked inside his stall. The doors were bolted from the outside. The villagers buried him on the hill below the house. They said they could still hear the horse screaming long after the stable was empty. Not long after, a maid named Eliza fell from the second floor balcony. Witnesses said she was cleaning with something or someone pushed her. Her spine snapped, but she lived long enough to whisper one final sentence to the farmhand who found her. She was standing behind me. No one asked who she meant, everyone already knew. From that day on, the balcony grew cold, a pocket of winter that never lifted. Visitors say the air there tastes like iron and rain. Then came the fire. A young stable boy, no more than 10, fell asleep beside the horses with a lantern burning beside him. When the Crawleys' eldest son found him, he beat the boy and locked him inside the barn. By morning, all that remained were blackened stones and the smell of burning oil. People claimed they saw a child's silhouette running through the flames, then vanishing into the smoke. And when the wind blows from the north, some say you can still hear him, coughing, begging for his mother. Mrs. Crawley's face twisted further. She had crosses carved into the doors, the windows, even the furniture. She kept a Bible in every room, but never opened them. They were charms, not scripture. At night she'd wander the halls with a candle, whispering prayers. Servants said she spoke to her dead husband, telling him to watch over their house. Sometimes they heard him answer. When she finally died, they buried her beside Christopher on the hill. But the priest who performed the funeral said the soil refused to take her. The ground kept sinking, and the coffin lowered too far. He had to bless the earth 3 times before it held. After her death, the house fell silent. The Crawley family's wealth faded. The servants left, windows cracked, paint peeled. By the 1930s, Monte Cristo stood abandoned, a shell filled with dust, birds, and the weight of unspoken things. Children dared each other to climb the fence and touch the door. Some did. Most ran when they heard footsteps following them out. One boy swore he saw a figure in the upstairs window, a woman in a black veil holding a candle. When the adults went to check, there was no one inside, but the candle still burned on the sill. In the 1960s, Reg and Olive Ryan bought the property, intending to restore it. They didn't believe in ghosts, they believed in hard work and history. That first night, Olive lit a single candle in the main hallway. The house groaned as if exhaling. She turned to speak to her husband, and when she looked back, the candle had gone out. The air grew so cold, her breath fogged. Then a whisper brushed her ear. "Leave it dark." Red laughed when she told him, but later as they slept, he woke to the creak of footsteps pacing above their bed. Slow, heavy, back and forth. No one else was upstairs. Over the next months, they endured small torments. Tools vanished, lights flickered, doors slammed in empty rooms. Once Olive heard sobbing in the nursery. When she entered, the cradle rocked by itself, back and forth, back and forth. The Ryans called in a priest. He blessed the house, but as he recited his prayer, every light went out at once. He finished quickly and refused to return. Then came the night Red nearly fled for good. He woke to the sound of horse hooves on the gravel path outside. At first he thought it was the wind, then he heard the latch on the front gate click open. He grabbed his lamp and walked to the window. Nothing moved, but the hoofbeats grew louder, circling the house. Then came the pounding at the door, 3 heavy blows. When he opened it, the night was empty, but muddy footprints led across the threshold. Small, child-sized prints that faded halfway down the hallway. He never told Olive what he saw crouched at the end of that hall, a shape small as a boy, half burnt, half whole, staring with black eyes that reflected no light. As the Ryans restored the mansion, visitors began to arrive, ghost hunters, journalists, skeptics. Every one of them left changed. One man collapsed in the upstairs hallway, gasping that something had wrapped cold hands around his throat. A woman fainted in Mrs. Crawley's bedroom, whispering she's still here. The psychic who visited claimed there were 7 spirits trapped inside. The maid who fell, the boy who burned, the caretaker who died without reason, and 4 others, unnamed, unseen, yet always watching. She said they were not alone. "There's something else," she whispered, "something older, something that never belonged to them." Red tried to dismiss it as superstition until he found scratch marks carved into the inside of a locked wardrobe. They were old. They spelled a single word, mine. He sealed the room. Years passed, but Monte Cristo remained restless. Visitors continued to report shadows moving across the balcony, a woman crying near the stairs, and the soft organ music echoing from nowhere. Ryan's grandchildren claimed that when they slept in the cottage behind the mansion, they could see a candle flickering in the second-floor window. Always the same room, always around midnight. Sometimes they said a face appeared behind the glass. Today the house is open to tourists, the curious, the brave, and the foolish. They come with cameras and questions, but the house gives them only silence. Still some leave with more than they came for. Strange bruises, nightmares, whispers in the recordings, and occasionally when someone stays long near the top of the stairs, they feel it, the temperature drop, the pressure in their chest, and the whisper of a woman's voice. Pray with me. If they turn around, they see her, the widow in black, face pale as wax, eyes hollow as time, candlelight flickering in her hand, and if you meet her gaze, you won't scream. You'll only go quiet, as though you've remembered something you were never supposed to forget. Monte Cristo Homestead is more than haunted. It's hungry. It feeds on grief, on tragedy, on anyone foolish enough to think they're just visiting, because no one really leaves the house. Not all of them, anyway. And on certain nights when the moon hangs low over Junie and the wind carries the scent of burning oil, you can still hear her. Black figure drifting across the balcony, candle in hand, watching the living, the way a vulture watches the dying, waiting for someone to come inside and never leave again. Did you find that creepy? If you did, like and subscribe. Have a scary night and spooky nightmares.